So we do have some listener communication. I think we have 2 phone calls and an email. So I think we're going to start with one of the voicemails. Of course, the phone number is 657-464-7609, or you can send an email to idoubtit@dollemore.com. This first voicemail is from Kara.
Hi, Brittany. Hi, Jesse. My name's Kara, and as a trans woman that's been on HRT for 5 years now and dealing with all of the abuse and bigotry and hate that our community gets, I simply wanted to say thanks for doing your coverage on Ben Shapiro's nonsense, and also wanted to ask the both of you if you've thought about maybe doing some more coverage to support the trans community. Thank you for what you do. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Well, thanks, Kara. It's always encouraging to receive messages like this. And it's kind of it's an opposite, like, I always feel like we should be the ones offering encouragement and hang in there, and because we're in the non-oppressed segment of in many ways a privileged setup with just the luck of what we've been born, and it's nice to receive these types of emails. Let me tell you, what did we call that one episode where we really went at it and the entire episode turned into trans issues? Trans extravaganza, we called the episode?
Yeah, it was episode 851 on March 6th of this year.
Yeah. Well, listen, we certainly, this is not a topic we shy away from. In fact, I believe that episode, we ended up losing quite a bit of Patreon support. Not like a shit ton, but we lost patrons because people just have this cemented, innate, I don't know if it's innate, but it's a programmed thing of bigotry where I can't handle it. It's just the same bigotry, whether it be about 20 years ago, the same arguments people would make against gay people and lesbians, they're now making against trans people, and they can't do the math in their head to say, oh, this is just a repeat of a lot of the issues I've already worked through about the gay community, and now it's about trans, and the arguments are just transposed on. Mm-hmm. So I don't fucking get it. But.
Yeah, I think it's important to us to continue to cover it because we see some of the bigotry bubbling up through the left as well. Like, some of these right-wing talking points are getting through to the left, and in fact, you see some prominent right-wing commentators sometimes dominating Twitter, for example.
You mean left-wing? Like Anna Kasparian.
Yeah.
You said right-wing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Easy to make the mistake sometimes, though.
Where they will say things about, I'm not going to be called a birthing person or whatever it is. They're complaining about things and that aren't really a problem, and then that helps elevate those right-wing talking points, even for people on the left. And so I think it's important that we take a stand, we continue to take a stand, and, Kara, if you come across a story that you feel like is important, please send it to us. And that doesn't just go for Kara, that goes for anyone. If you feel like there's a story out there that you think is important for us to cover, I can't guarantee that we will cover it, obviously, but we get stories, we get recommendations, and sometimes it's like, oh, wow, we didn't come across this. This is important. We want to cover this. So definitely send that stuff our way. If there's a trans issue that you feel like needs to be highlighted, definitely send it our way and let us know.
And also, just to put a fine point on this, trans rights are human rights, and if you're getting there but you're not quite there yet, kick yourself in the ass and get there. But if you're repeating the same, let me say this. If you admire people like Anna Kasparian or Cenk Uygur who use arguments that if you were just reading a quote and not saying who it was, and if you guessed that it was Matt Walsh or Ben Shapiro saying the quote when in fact it was Anna Kasparian, maybe you should message Anna or get on Twitter and not be abusive, but say, listen, what are you doing? You're not elevating the cause. You're not advancing human rights for a group of people that have been not just traditionally, but in a contemporary sense, being abused, being killed, being just the ultimate oppression. I'll just end it. We're not here for that. we're striving to be on the right side of history and to punch up, not down.
All right. So thank you, Kara, for that voicemail. This next voicemail is from someone who didn't leave their name. So whenever that happens, we refer to the person as anonymous. So this is an anonymous person. And, you know, we typically only play voicemails on the show. This is like a rule that has been created when they greet both of us. Because if it's like, hi, Jesse, then like that's for his YouTube channel. If it's hi, Brittany, that's for my YouTube channel. Go ahead and go over there and subscribe. And and if it's for both of us and it's like, that's for the show. We made an exception here because this person is complaining about our previous episode, but they're directing their complaint to Jesse.
Hi, Jesse. I'm an 82-year-old woman in Tucson, Arizona, and I just finished listening to you and Brittany. And I truly respect her because the reason I'm calling is I find foul language offensive. I used to watch Hal Sparks, but I don't watch him anymore because he uses too many offensive terms. So just a note, please try to be like Brittany and keep everything clean. Thank you.
Wow.
Finally, the respect I deserve.
I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel about this.
Please try to be like Brittany.
That's a new drop. New drop. As just a reminder, it's nice to hear people telling you to be more like me rather than people telling me to be more like you. It's nice.
Well, let me address the anonymous caller's main point.
Please try to be like Brittany.
I think that's a secondary point. The main point being that being offended by or foul language offends me. What is that? I don't even really know what that means. What is foul? Is hell? Because I know growing up, hell was a curse word.
Mm-hmm.
Is it fuck? Is it shit? Is it like, where is the line, the delineation?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know people who aren't even like foul language people who wouldn't have a problem hearing me say the word fuck.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I definitely know what you mean. And anyone who knows me knows that I have a very filthy mouth. As
filthy as Jesse D.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ever since I was young. There's video of me as like a toddler calling my dad a little asshole. And he was. And
he wasn't little.
and
but he was indeed.
Yeah, it started young.
An asshole.
And so I curb it a little bit for the show because a lot of people don't like it. And it's really not necessary to use it all the time. But, you know, it has its moments. And I definitely am not offended by it. I'm not offended by any words, actually. People write in and leave comments and use the C word. I'm not going to say it on the YouTubes, but, you know.
Well, see, here's the deal. Here's really kind of the rub of it is I try to be authentic on YouTube, on the podcast. And I think I'm more authentic on the podcast because I drop the F-bomb a lot more, and it's really part of my vernacular. It's not me trying to be edgy and using language. This is just who I am. And I curse in my real life because I'm an adult and I use adult language. If you don't, great. And the reason I don't do it as much on YouTube, and this is going on YouTube, so that's kind of dumb, but like on the Dollemore Daily, is because of monetization, and people have reached out and said, hey, I can't watch this at work if you're going to be dropping the F-bomb, so I bleep it when I say it, which is rarely. But here on the podcast, we've... Again, going back to the initial intro of the show, talking about 10 years here, this is how we started, and the flavor of the show, I don't want to change the makeup of the show. So, to anonymous caller, I want to be as authentic as I can. I also don't want to cause viewers to flee because I think what we have to say is important. But, I'm still going to, kind of sorry, but sorry, not really going to change.
I also think that a lot of the things that we talk about kind of call for strong language, and the things that actually do upset me, that do offend me, are like violations of human rights and these things that we're talking about all the time. Those are the things that actually upset me. And so if we are going to use strong language, we're going to use it because it helps amplify what we're feeling and it's descriptive. It helps communicate a message. There's a reason for using it. And it reminds me of a TikTok that a listener sent to us, actually, Carly in Texas. And the guy in the TikTok was making a similar argument that like he hasn't, I think it was like about raising his kids, that he hasn't raised his kids to think of bad words as being bad. He's raised his kids to be offended by racism, by poverty, by, whatever. And I think some people will hear that and go, oh, how high and mighty, like, oh, trying to whatever. But I think it's a nice message, actually.
It does remind me, and I don't want to this was kind of a joke call.
Please try to be like Brittany.
She's very serious, but I mean, we played it more to highlight that part of it, that I should be more like you. It reminds me of, to go back to the initial call from Kara, that one of the reasons we did lose support over that trans issue, that series of episodes that we did, was when I said, if you don't think trans rights are human rights, you can fuck straight off. And I was aggressive about it.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I do, yeah.
And I still feel that way. I mean, maybe I could do a better job of trying to get people there. That's not really my skill set, but that's how I used a curse word in that moment to express just how vehemently I feel about this particular topic.
Yeah.
So again, sorry.
Please try to be like Brittany.
I'll try to be more like Brittany.
Okay, now we have an email before we move on to the rest of the show. And this is from EJ. EJ writes, "Hi, Jesse and Brittany. I want to say I'm a fan of your content. You are doing a great job. However..."
Uh-oh. Oh, no! EJ!
The one thing that really concerns me in this day and age is that Trump and his fellow no-good doers are taking up all the air in the room, and that it is the only thing you talk about. Granted, they give you plenty of material. I know good news doesn't sell as fast as bad news. However, we need to remind people that Biden is doing big and great things, and we need to remind people that good things are happening now. It's not all bad news. In the 60s and 70s, there used to be a policy that networks would give equal time to opposing viewpoints, and that was good for decent, thought-provoking conversations. However, when they got rid of that, it enabled the Fox News networks of the world to show up and just dominate airtime with a singular opinion as if it were news. What I'm asking you, with your platform, is to give Biden and Harris's accomplishments some airtime. Let's remind people that there are reasonable people out there doing powerfully important things that really affect their everyday lives, and they should want that to continue. I hope you get what I'm talking about. You have a powerful platform. The messaging is great, but if you can make some of it about how good some things are, it will diminish Trump taking all of the air out of the room. Thanks for your time, and keep fighting the good fight. Thank you for your service. EJ.
Well, thank you, EJ. Wow, it's a lot here. Did EJ list any of Biden and Harris accomplishments? I mean, very important. Certainly a passion of EJ's to want them talk to. Which ones did they list?
None.
Oh, wow, it's a real missed opportunity, EJ.
Well, and here's what I would say to that. I'm
just teasing. But I mean, doesn't this illustrate somewhat of a point?
Yeah, here's what I would say about that. First, let's broadly just talk about the point about like the bad news sells more than the good news. I think it's really important to talk about the attacks on our democracy, the impending fascist takeover, the danger that is allowing Donald Trump to be reelected president, or any Republican for that matter, given the Project 2025, which Jesse and I are working on a script together to produce a long form video about what exactly Project 2025 is and how dangerous it is, and it's very scary. And so I don't think about that as like bad news sells. In fact, that video is probably not going to do well.
That's right. In fact, most of the topics that we talk about that we're passionate about, that we really want to be seen because it's so fucking important, don't get watched. Trans rights, climate, healthcare, abortion, all of these things critically important. No one clicks on them.
Yeah, and listen, that's why we haven't been covering the Republican debates. I mean, we used to do an episode for every debate, and when we're seeing what's happening on the stage with the Republican presidential candidates, why would we commit any effort to covering that whatsoever when it's pointless? So what we go after is not, oh, this is going to sell better. We think about what's important to cover, what's going to be informing people. And certainly we can do a better job, I think, of highlighting good things that the Biden administration is doing. Although we try to do that too. I mean, when he signed the American Rescue Plan and the expanded child tax credit lifted, millions of children out of poverty. It was a historic reduction in the child poverty rate. We talk about how important that was. We talked about that a lot. We did videos about that. We've dedicated a lot of time to it, but it didn't continue. The expanded child tax credit went away, and those kids fell back into poverty.
Right.
And so we have to cover that too. We have to talk about the limitations of the positive things that have been put into place. And that comes down to Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, listen, I would say this, EJ. Your point is well received, and it's important for sure. But I wouldn't, it's not up to me to sell the accomplishments of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. It's up to them. They're not doing it. They're not saying, this is what we are running for president and vice president once again in 2024. This is the slate of issues that we want to accomplish in a second term. I'm not seeing any of that. That is a mistake on the part of the Democratic Party and of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They can't blame us. You can't blame us for not selling the accomplishments when they're not doing it themselves. They're not giving us the slate of issues. Second point I want to make is the good news versus bad news versus sounding the alarm about the end of American democracy. If you live beneath a dam and it's gonna break and thousands of people are gonna die in a massive flood, would you have me say, well, why don't you talk about the beautification on the other side of the dam? The part that's not gonna get flooded. We just planted all these beautiful flowers. This is probably a wonky metaphor because I'm making it up in real time, but none of that would be important because of the impending loss of life from the dam breaking. So this isn't just good news versus bad news. Well, why don't you talk about the pretty flowers? Because of the fact that we are in a situation where democracy will be over if Donald Trump is reelected. They have a plan in place to make sure that happens because the ideological stances of the Republican Party are in misalignment with the rest of the country, and the only way that they remain in power is through cheating and nefarious means. So we're going to sound the alarm before we talk about the pretty flowers that were planted. Yeah. I think that's going to just continue to happen.
Yeah, I think it went well. I think the damn thing, it was good.
Was that a good one?
It was good, yeah.
Please try to be like Brittany.
I also think that through talking about the negative things, that people can implicitly see the juxtaposition. I mean, that Democrats are not the ones who are planning to bring down our democracy and who refuse to accept election results unless they win. We're able to see the differences there, and we talk about those differences. And so I think that's an important part of it too. But yeah, I mean, we tend to just focus on what the danger is, and the danger really is in the Republican Party. But we also get flack, by the way, for criticizing Democrats too often.
Right.
So it's tough to be in this spot where we're not going to please everybody. It's impossible to please everybody. But can we be doing better? Absolutely.
For sure.
And we appreciate emails like this that help remind us that we can be doing better. I would have appreciated some of EJ's favorite of the accomplishments of the Biden administration, and I would actually like to outsource that to the audience because let's talk about it. What are some of your favorite accomplishments of this administration? What has the Biden administration done, put into place that has impacted your life, that has benefited you, that you have been most excited about, that you feel like is not being talked about enough? You can call and let us know, 657-464-7609, or you can send an email to idoubtit@dollemore.com.
Let me also one more thing. I know that's the transition to move on to the next segment.
I wasn't trying to cut you off.
No. It's that for like a lot of times I'll talk about a topic that is adjacent to an accomplishment of the Biden administration, like the infrastructure deal. And I'll point out that Republicans are campaigning. They're going down to ribbon cuttings that are a direct result of the infrastructure bill that they voted against. So it is a sideways way of pointing out an accomplishment that Republicans not only were not a fan of, they voted directly against. So a lot of times it's not as easy, or it's not as simple as you didn't talk about the accomplishment, because there are accomplishments. And then, then we'll move on here. I believe right now the most important thing for Biden to do is to let us do what we do and explain to the rest of the American people what they plan to do in 2025 when they hit the ground for a second term. What are their priorities? What do they presume to achieve? Is it codify Roe? Great. Fantastic. Should have been done 2 decades ago, but I'm here for it. Is it codify gay marriage? Is it to propose constitutional amendments that will protect a generations and generations worth of LGBTQ people in America? Yes, I'm here for that. I haven't heard. It's crickets. Where's my crickets? It's crickets from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris about what their agenda will be for America going forward. So I would love to be CC'd on your email, EJ, to the campaign. Again, we'd love to hear from you. 657-464-7609. And of course, you can email a regular old-fashioned email or a voice memo from your smartphone to I doubt it at Dollemore.com.